Debt has been the buzzword of the election campaign, but Bernard Hickey from Interest.co.nz argues neither party plans to do enough to really solve the problem. And he joins us now from our Wellington studio. Good morning to you, Bernard.
Good morning.
They both have a plan to get back to surplus by about 2014, 2015. Is that not enough?
Not really, when you consider since 2005, both major parties have baked in a structural deficit in the government's accounts with the introduction of the likes of working for families, interest-free student loans, and then in the last parliament, the tax cuts for those on higher incomes. All of those things have helped contribute to an increase, a massive increase in our debt in the last 3 years. So the Christchurch earthquake and the recession have been part of the reason for the increase in our debt, but actually it's that structural deficit of about 2 to 3% of GDP, some people say, that isn't being addressed by either party, and we're sailing into the election in a few days' time when no one is really addressing this issue at a time, as we heard this morning from your economist in London, where we face not just a recession, but something potentially catastrophically worse in Europe and the rest of the world. Blithely, our politicians are saying we can afford these middle-class welfare items, when actually we can't.
Given, though, the number of people that those policies actually impact, it would be political suicide to do away with them, wouldn't it?
That's right, and of course that's why we're not seeing the proposals to remove them now. But it's a choice for New Zealanders. Do we make the decision ourselves through our own politicians, or do we wait, Greek or Spanish style, for a bunch of bureaucrats and technocrats from the IMF or wherever to come to us and tell us in a few years' time we can't afford to have these things? So it's much better to control them ourselves. So
if you are a person who's, say, on working for families or benefiting from an interest-free student loan, what is the case to give those up?
Well, you can keep control of your own economy and you can keep control of your own government, and you can actually make sure that in 10, 20 years' time, when your kids are growing up and paying taxes, that they're not going to be landed with all this debt that's being issued right now. In effect, New Zealanders have decided in the last 5 years, and in fact longer, since 2005 or so, to essentially consume the future wealth of New Zealand by borrowing so much money offshore, both governments and households, and also to sell assets, which is making us collectively poorer and making sure that in the future we're not in a position to repay those debts that we've incurred.
So is that to say that the policies of both of the major parties to either sell state assets or introduce a capital gains tax are short-term measures, that they're only dealing with the debt that we've incurred by one-off instances like the earthquake?
That's right. They haven't really addressed the structural deficit problem we have in our economy, and the government is in a great position to do it. If you want to improve your national savings rate, the fastest way to do it is to run a budget surplus. Right now, New Zealand should be running budget surpluses and current account surpluses. We've got record high commodity prices. We're at a point where a lot of New Zealanders are still earning plenty. They're at the peak earning periods of their lives. Before they retire, we should be putting away money for in the next 10 to 20 years when they retire, when the pension costs increase and the healthcare costs increase. We shouldn't be running deficits right now.
It's a hard sell to the electorate, though, isn't it? Thank you, Bernard. That is Bernard Hickey from Interest.co.nz.